Hello everyone, and welcome to Total Television. We were all hoping it might not happen, but now it appears that Spider-Man is destined to return home to Sony Pictures' Spider-Verse, after hanging the past couple years in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Marvel Studios did a magnificent job with rebooting the web-slinger, but there's still an awful lot that fans have been unhappy with, and now Sony has the opportunity to make some changes. Could an MCU-less version of Spider-Man might just be an improvement? Find out today as we discuss 10 ways Sony's Spider-Man 3 can fix past Spider-Verse franchise mistakes. Watch till the end. There are some of our suggestions have already been carried out. Before we dive in, don't forget to check out our other Spider-Man content after this. Like the video and hit the subscribe button so you can enter our PlayStation 5 giveaway. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, we will be selecting one of you to win a free PlayStation 5. Good luck, and on to the video. Number 1. Clear up Peter Parker's origin story. Marvel Studios voted against touching on Peter Parker's origin story in a bid to avoid repeating what's come before. While we know that Peter was bitten by a spider, we got no idea when it happened or the result. We certainly don't need to spend a long time on it. Sony should definitely not go back down the route of tying the spider to Peter's parents or even Oscorp, but it would be nice to learn more about the day he got those superpowers and what he decided to do with them after being bitten. On this note, was this Peter version responsible for Uncle Ben's death? Was he hunting for fame and fortune and ignore Robert at a troublesome time? Getting some clues to these questions would be welcomed and would flesh out our hero's past. Number 2. Give Spider-Man the black suit he deserves. It was all fine and good seeing Spider-Man in that black stealth suit in Spider-Man Far From Home, but it's not the black outfit the vast majority of fans would actually like to see him wearing. Sure, some fans found Venom not so great, but with Andy Serkis in charge of the sequel, things are already gazing into Eddie Brock. Having the wall crawler in that costume now may not be exactly like the comics. Still, it would be nice seeing the web-slinger interact with the symbiote, and something very, very unusual for Holland's version of Peter Parker. Frankly, it's hard not to be excited about that prospect. Marvel Studios dropped a trick when they didn't have the wall crawler back from his time in outer space with an alien costume. Number 3. Present Spidey's rivalry with J. Jonah Jameson. At the final of Spider-Man Far From Home, the webbed warrior's secret character was outed to the world because of Mysterio and a paper from the DailyBugle.net's J. Jonah Jameson. It definitely feels like now is an excellent time to revisit this relationship and do something distinct with it. Only the fact that the world knows Spidey's secret personality should be a massive part of the sequel, and that makes sense in the fake news era. Jonah could also obtain the help of Scorpion, or even some Spider Slayers if that means he can catch the young hero down and be branded a hero for doing so. Number 4. With great power. The Amazing Spider-Man glazed over this in perhaps the most awkward way possible, and Marvel Studios has, for some reason, wholly decided against referencing it in any way. In place of Uncle Ben, Tony Stark has been Peter's father figure. While that's worked in many ways, it's also lessened the influence Ben must have had on the high school student's path to becoming a hero. Even if it's just said once, this is something fans would appreciate hugely. After all, it's a legendary line and one that's played a role in Peter's development as a character for decades. Now, we all know who he is. Perhaps we could see Spidey explaining why he chose to be a superhero, and how Uncle Ben encouraged him with a simple but exact piece of wisdom.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Number 5. Get Peter Parker out of high school. Marvel Studios transferring Spider-Man back to high school was understandable, as it might not have made a tremendous amount of sense for us to surprisingly learn that a grown-up version of Peter Parker had been flying around the Big Apple for a decade without anyone noticing it or even knowing. However, we've spent a significant time in high school at this point, and the gloss is beginning to wear off. Hold in mind that Tom Holland is actually 23, so there's really no reason why he can't start acting his age. This loosely defined time jump would help part Spidey's next adventure from the MCU, while also presenting a fresh new take on the wall crawler. Even if he's just a college student, getting away from high school set stories feels like the best move for Peter at this point. Number 6. More Manhattan, less Queens. Spider-Man being a friendly neighborhood superhero wasn't a bad move by Marvel Studios. Still, it was pretty disappointing to see him hanging around Queens hunting bicycle thieves and doing backflips on rooftops in Spider-Man Homecoming. The sequel ultimately saw him swing into New York City though, and it would now be nice to keep that going. The sight of Spidey swinging through Manhattan merely is iconic, and a proper Sony should return to. They don't certainly need to repeat the past, of course. Still, it would be nice to have a Spider-Man movie set back in the Big Apple, preferably then in Queens or even places like Washington, D.C. and Venice. Taking Peter abroad was a lot of fun, but Avengersless New York needs a hero more than ever. Number 7. A new Peter Parker design suit. Spider-Man's primary costume was given to him by Iron Man, as was his second. At the same time, his latest red and black suit was created using Tony Stark's techs. Oh, and that stealth suit was created by the remains of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's time for Peter Parker to make his very first own costume from scratch, positively without all those arguably useless technical add-ons. It's great seeing Spider-Man use technology to an extent, and something we've witnessed in the comics a lot over the past few years. But he's not expected to have access to billion-dollar technology. It would be far more enjoyable for Peter to don his classic costume, without the extra abilities, since that comes with a suit that has almost all the powers of Iron Man's armor. Whatever happens, Sony Pictures would be smart to stick to the source material in the threequel. Number 8. An enemy who loathes Spider-Man, not Iron Man. This is a given now that Spidey is not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe anymore. Still, the next Spider-Man movie villain needs to have a grudge versus the Wallcrawler instead of Iron Man. The Vulture hated Tony Stark since he formed Damage Control, and Spidey simply got in the way. The totally same thing could be said for Mysterio, with some very minor changes. Now, the franchise's next big villain should most definitely want to target Spider-Man, making the conflict between them a lot more personal. The Scorpion certainly wouldn't be a wrong choice, as he definitely has it out for Spider-Man. Still, it definitely feels like the plan is to put the attention on Venom next. That actually might work. Number 6. Introduce the Sinister Six. Unexpectedly, Marvel Studios never really took the opportunity to tease the Sinister Six. That might be since they didn't want to build a story they knew they wouldn't get the chance to tell. Although we know Sony is interested in the Sinister Six. Drew Goddard was once hired to write and direct a movie that would have seen Spidey forced to team up with the villains. That clearly needs to undergo massive revisions. But taking the filmmaker back and putting the web-slinger versus that group of bad boys could be awesome. And it would totally make fans happy. Well, at least this point is already in progress. The Sinister Six is coming, and you can watch our video about it. Number 10. Make proper use of the web-slinger's spider sense. For reasons that still aren't completely clear, Marvel Studios decided to hold off on giving Peter Parker his spider sense. It surely felt earned by the time it was launched in Spider-Man Far From Home. Now is the best time for Sony to cover this power and use it in exciting new ways. That would mainly be the case in terms of visuals. There's so much more that can be made with spider sense than slow motion shots of the hero jumping into action. And the fact that Venom doesn't set it off should definitely be used in some way. This is an almost minor request, but it's one that could make a massive difference in the long run. If Spider-Man does one day battle the Sinister Six, this power will obviously come in very handy. How do you like our video? Would you like to see more info about the upcoming Spider-Man movie? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss an upload and enter our PlayStation 5 giveaway. We hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching Total Television, and see you in our next video.